Good morning. Welcome to another Health Talk with John T. I'm your host. The weather seems to have smartened up a little bit. Spring seems like it's just around the corner. And today we're going to be talking about lung health, specifically with regards to the omega fatty acid balance in the body and how that affects it. Now, just remember, I'm not offering medical advice. I'm just sharing facts that I have researched and learned about, which I am perfectly allowed to do so. So take with the information what you will. And with that, so in case you're wondering what that was, I've been doing a gargle with a saline solution, so not just warm salt water, but I've been using apple cider vinegar as well. I had heard that regular vinegar can work as well. Apparently what it does is it opens up the airways. The reason I'm doing this, I've been having a dry and scratchy throat, and with the way that, things are, I've been advised to isolate, get tested for this whole virus thing. Again, this is normal climate stuff. This happens to me every year in this town at this time. It's very dry. So I'm just doing, everything that I possibly can to look after myself. I work in the hospital, in the kitchen, so I have to look after other people as well. And it's for the best. Anyway, enough of that. Enough about me. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about our human body. Some fun facts. We have collagen and elastin. Now, you probably knew this, and you're wondering, I thought you were talking about lungs, because elastin is what lets me do this, and collagen is what makes it so that it comes back to normal, and it keeps its shape. Well, these two, they're proteins. They're a protein compound, and they exist everywhere in your whole body. In fact, all vertebrates have collagen and elastin, with the exception of this guy. I know, ugly, eh? I didn't dig too much into that or why. I just thought that was interesting. Learned something new. Something else I didn't know was vitamin A has an essential role. When a fetus in the mother's womb is forming and the lungs are forming, it starts building tubes, right? The bronchial tubes. Well, those are actually made from vitamin A, carotenoids, or well, just retinoids actually at that point. They are helping build the fibers, and then they're pushing the genetics to tell them, okay, we need to copy this. Okay, this is the point where we need to start building the alveoli, turn this into a pocket, not just another branch like up from a tree. So, but who knew? Vitamin A is for more than just your hair and your eyes. Overall body health is so important. Now, I do know that you don't want to take too much vitamin A. I'm going to talk about that one down the road in more detail into vitamin A. Expand, compress, expand, compress. So, my muscles expand and contract. So my lungs are doing that too as I breathe. I could strengthen my lungs, and actually, there's quite a bit of evidence to support that too. So I'm going to provide a link talking about some exercises that you can use to strengthen, that they use to treat patients with breathing problems, breathing issues. So you want to think about really filling, like, right into your diaphragm. Really expand your lungs, right? You get the most out of a muscle if you can get it into its most stretched position and its most squeezed position. So on the one side of things, you do the deep diaphragmatic breathing. That's one exercise. Then you have the pursed lip breathing. So in through the nose, quickly, hard, like you're blowing out a balloon, but like really, really quickly. If you've ever had to do a breathalyzer, or if you've ever been tested for any sort of breathing issues, they have a switch uh, that it has to flip. Like you have to build up a certain amount of pressure. And that's not only a sign of strong lungs, but it's also an exercise that you can do. You want to be really forceful about that air. And there's a lot of other different breathing exercises. You know, you can do breath holds, and a lot of things. There's a whole book on how that affects athletic performance, doing breath holds and stuff like that, that I really want to read and share with you guys one day on this channel, called The Oxygen Advantage. So, yes, people who are having breathing difficulties or trying to quit smoking, really good. In fact, anybody can benefit from lung strengthening exercise. It'll help with your cardiovascular system too. The reason they tell you to stretch out a muscle after you've been exercising or working out, what happens is you allow more blood to flow in, and you can get more nutrients into the cell to help repair it and build more muscle or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. So with omega-3 and omega-6, they have different roles in doing this. And that's why you need a good balance of it. You see, omega-6 is, don't let this scare you, pro-inflammatory. Yes, pro. It causes. Now there's purpose for this. You see, when a cell becomes infected and the immune cells can't remove the infection, what happens is it kills the cell, just destroys it. And in order to get the immune cells into there and the dead cell out, you need your blood vessels to open up. Now, unfortunately, for your lungs and your breathing, what happens is the blood cells open up, which causes things to close up because you got all that pressure building up. That's what an allergic reaction is. That's why people need to carry around EpiPens, and asthmatics need to carry around inhalers, which is actually very interesting. So there was this study done on people under the age of 30. It was a 20-year study, and what they found was that the incidence of asthma in these people was lowered. Now, everybody, to qualify, had to have either a prescription for an inhaler or a doctor's note that saying that basically they were asthmatic. Now, there were some restrictions in the group. They did do, okay, half were male, half were female, half were Caucasian, half were African American. So this was a pretty reasonable study. They tried to do things balanced and even, but there's other ethnic groups. What about people from Mexico or South America or Asia, and people in different areas, can be affected differently by different things. So anyway, they were looking at omega-3 with these groups, and they had different dosing, smokers, non-smokers, they're taking into account exercise and diet. So they said, well, we feel that we've taken nutrition into account, but they also provided these other studies that said, well, we didn't take everything into account, because what about multivitamins? Vitamins will affect your absorption, or lack of vitamins will affect your absorption of everything and its usefulness in the body. So, but it was very interesting. Now, again, this was in a young group. These were not older people. That they said the incidence of asthma after 20 years, uh, wasn't there for certain people. So I'm not going to give the exact ratio of or numbers, percentage of people because of the factors and how many of these doctors, do we have a more accurate way of diagnosing asthma today than they did back in the 80s? This was from 1986 to 2006. Medicine's come a long way since then. However, this was even in children, so this shows that it's important to get vital nutrients when you're young. I was talking about vitamin A for mothers even. So it's important to get good nutrient intake. The problem with the omega-6 thing is that a lot of our foods have like certain oils added to them, palm oil or corn especially, and there's a few others that they add that are really, really high in omega-6, which offsets that balance. Omega-3 brings down the inflammation. Omega-6 brings up the inflammation. Now, again, you need both, but you don't want too much of one or the other. Even too much if your blood gets too thin, you have problems. You need a balance, as with everything in life. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that balance is and how your digestion, everything, your immune system, there's so much to cover, so much that I don't know. So next week, I will definitely be discussing this in a little bit more detail. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up so that YouTube tells people to watch it more. Please support me by subscribing. And then you can stay tuned for next week's episodes and let me know in the comments if you have subjects you'd like me to cover. So with that, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a good 24.